first step. If you have a module, for example, we have module KV over here, and if you want to view this documentation inside your IEx session, you can use h function. So for example, we'll do h KV, and that gives us the documentation. You could see this documentation is exactly the same as what we have over here. So this module is only for testing, this module is only for testing. You could also get documentation for a specific function. So for example, if you want this documentation of this sum function, what you could do is you could say h kv dot sum, and that will give you documentation. Okay, the second tip, let's look at recompile. When we make changes to our module, for IEx to pick up those changes, you have to recompile your module. So for example, let's say if we made a change in our documentation where we said some method adds two numbers and it just has 3 additional dots. And if we were to call help for kv.sum, it's still showing us the version which has only a single dot. So if we wanted the updated documentation, we'll have to recompile our project. And we can clearly see we have now 3 dots. Okay, let's look at another one. Started using this module, and we are going to take sum of, let's say, 2 and 3. Then we took sum of 5 and 6. Then let's say we did 5 and 5. But we wanted the result of the computation that happened on the 4th try. So to do that, we can use a function called v, and v takes the argument of the line number of the IEx computation that had happened. So if you said v4, we'll get the value back 5. And if we wanted v6, that will give us 10. So v function is especially useful when you have done a bunch of things and you want to get back to that value without actually typing the entire computation. Okay, tip number 4, canceling bad commands. So for example, let's say we are adding 2 numbers. We want to do another computation where we are going to add 3 plus 4, but accidentally we added a single quote at the end. Now the shell is expecting us to provide further input, but we don't actually have further input. So one solution is to just cancel out of the whole thing by pressing Ctrl+C, or we can use IEx break to just break out of this input, and you still have access to A. Tip number 5, using breakpoints in IEx. So let's say we want to debug this sum function. What we could do is require IEx and IExpry, recompile our code, and let's call kv.sum. And now when we execute this function kv.sum, it'll come on to this line and then it'll break. We are on line 20th, that's where the break is, and we have the value of A or B. If we want to carry on with the execution of our function, we can call respawn, and that'll finish the function's execution, and then we are out of the IEx shell. Okay, so the last step, and this is for exiting the IEx shell. So you might already know that you could press Ctrl+C twice to exit out of IEx, but there is another option where you could press Ctrl// and that'll exit out of it in a single keystroke. That was me pressing Ctrl+C and we exited out of it instead of Ctrl+C plus Ctrl+C.